Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, as the Islamic State group crumbles in Iraq, we take a look at what happens to its female members, some having taken a key role in torturing or abusing its victims. Also, the fallout of the Syrian civil war means 3 million refugees are now living in Turkey. We talk to Istanbul-based journalist Fariba Nawa about how that's leading to a rise in child marriage and other social problems. But first, and the Islamic State group appears to be on the verge of collapse. The jihadists, having lost their self-proclaimed capital of Raqqa, are battling now to hang on to small pockets of territory in Iraq and Syria. But what will happen to their women members? A France 2 television crew met with one who's now residing in an Iraqi jail.
I pledged allegiance to the Islamic State group at the beginning of 2015. I promised in front of the organization's tribunal to be faithful and obedient. When people on the street saw me wearing the Islamic State headband, they were afraid. They ran away because they knew I was part of the group.
We meet with 35-year-old Afna, a former member of the militant morality police in the offices of the Iraqi prison service, where she's serving a 15-year sentence. Steely-eyed yet nervous, she recounts her mission in South Mosul, to make the women conform.
I had to arrest women who weren't respecting Islamic law, those who didn't wear their veils properly, or who didn't wear gloves or socks. It wasn't easy for me, but I had to do it. The penalty was 15 lashes. We also punished the husbands for letting their wives out like that.
Raised in a religious family in a working-class neighborhood, Afna admits she didn't join the Islamic State group as a fanatic. She did it for the money.
My husband is old and doesn't work anymore. It was hard for me and my children. To join the Islamic State organization, they paid me 700 euros, then 400 euros every month.
In disadvantaged areas, the jihadists paid 2 to 3 times more than the average wage. Reason enough for Afna to close her eyes to their crimes. As the militants face defeat, more and more women are being captured by Kurdish and Iraqi forces. They're often quick to repent. But Arieh, a member of Iraq's Yazidi community, persecuted by the Islamic State group, warns they shouldn't be believed. At 11 years old, she was kidnapped and enslaved, living at the mercy of the men and women of the organization.
To the woman, we Yazidis were servants. They beat me and insulted me daily. I was locked up. If I wanted water, I had to ask them for permission. It was hell, dealing with the humiliation every day. Sometimes they were even worse than the men.
After what she suffered, Arieh feels no sense of female solidarity with these women. She'll never forget, like the thousands of others, degraded and terrorized by the Islamic State group. Whether active or passive, the female accomplices of the Islamic State group are paying the price. But for their children, the future is uncertain. In the eyes of Iraqi society, they are the spawn of evil.
To Turkey now, a country that has absorbed some 3 million Syrians, thus making it the largest refugee population in the world. While the government there is becoming increasingly religious and conservative, Turkish laws are still based on the modernist principles of its founder, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. For instance, couples must be aged above 18 in order to marry without parental permission, and polygamy is outlawed. But a refugee family desperate to offload another mouth to feed will often turn a blind eye to such laws. As a result, child marriage is now on the rise. Joining me now is Fariba Nawa, an Afghan-American journalist based in Istanbul who's been following this story along with other issues affecting women in Turkey. Fariba, thanks for being with us. Just tell me, how widespread a problem is child marriage in the Syrian refugee community?
It's a crisis right now. Many families are dealing with this. In every household that I visited for the stories that I've done, at least one girl has been married off underage. And families are struggling with many issues, including poverty, displacement, and just basic misogyny that's causing this issue to rise. But it is a lot of it has to do with a displaced community that's coming out of a war zone.
What is prompting this? I mean, is it strictly the fact that there is one too many mouths to feed at the table, so therefore families will take this step?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons, but there are other reasons. There are issues like men feel emasculated. When in many communities, when men are not receiving the honor and the status and the dignity that they feel they deserve, they turn on their women. And but in this situation, one of the girls that I wrote about, she was there was a neighbor who was a Turkish boy who was fond of her, and the family had asked this young girl's hand in marriage, and the Syrian family felt like they had to do something. They did not want this marriage to happen, so they gave her hand to another Syrian suitor. And that turned into a divorce. They married her off at 13, and by 14, she was already divorced with a child. So there are different reasons for why this moves forward.
Now, Turkish NGOs are doing their best to educate refugees on the dangers of child marriage and the importance of contraception, but are they being listened to?
No. Many of these activists who are trying to go into communities and teach them about birth control, about family planning, about the rights of women, are being shunned, and mostly by the men. The men feel that this is not the place of government or activists. This is their territory, and they don't want to be told how to raise their daughters or how to who their daughters should marry or at what age.
Still, this is not an issue confined strictly to just Syrian women, is it? I mean, in rural areas of Turkey, the same practices can be found, can't they?
Yes. It's important to note that 1/3 of marriages, even before the Syrian crisis, involved child brides, and they still happen, especially in the rural areas, as you said. And it's something that Turkish feminists have been grappling with for quite some time.
Fariba, I just want to pause there as we take a look at another issue that's making headlines in Turkey. Recently, the Turkish parliament passed a law allowing Muftis, that's religious experts, to perform marriages in the same capacity as civil servants authorised to conduct such ceremonies. However, critics see the move as a step towards the weakening of the country's secularism and say it will lead to an increase in the number of child marriages. Our France 24 team on the ground sent us this report.
It's a law that sparked lots of debate in Parliament. Huda Kaya is a representative of the opposition party and the only woman who sat on the parliamentary commission which looked into this reform. She thinks women, especially conservative women, are the ones who will suffer from it.
The government knows that it can get conservative women to do anything in the name of religion. And they use religious leaders to do so.
Not far away, police fire tear gas to break up this feminist protest. 11 women are arrested. One of them is Aysen, who we catch up with after she's released from custody.
Until today, women in this country have been given a lot of rights thanks to secularism, and now it looks like we're losing some of them.
These are criticisms rejected by the ruling party, who ensure that the criteria for marriage won't change.
You still have to be over age, and polygamy is still forbidden. But in the same way that people have the right to go to a town hall to officialise their marriage, they can do it in front of a mufti now too.
Since 1926, civil marriage has been the only form of union authorised in Turkey. Certain legal experts believe that this reform could further put women's rights in danger.
The civil code, which is part of the Republic's laws, should not be changed. But recently the government has voted in lots of reforms which contradict the constitution, and I don't see what can stop them. In our opinion, it's a real risk.
The law now allows muftis to officiate marriages, giving them the same power as mayors. But critics are already saying they're taking the matter to the Constitutional Court, in what is just the latest piece of legislation dividing Turkey.
And with me now is Fariba Nawa, an Afghan-American journalist who we've been talking to about issues affecting women in Turkey. Fariba, this move has indeed sparked anger among opposition groups and women's groups who argue that it undermines the secular nature of Turkish society. How can that be the case?
Well, this is a slippery slope. A lot of feminists see this as a way, a lot of activists, I should see this as another step toward Islamization and the end of secularization in Turkey. And previously, imams were fined, Muslim clerics were fined for marrying women without a court certificate, and now they can do so with it. So what these feminists are saying, first of all, this is just Sunni Muslims who do this. What about other groups who don't do this? So this discriminates against other religions. And secondly, these imams, many of them believe that girls can be married before the age of 18, and they would break the law. On the other side, many Muslim feminists actually believe that this will create more transparency, and maybe there won't be as many child brides married because now these imams will be liable. They will be responsible for following the law.
Fariba, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's it for now, and you can connect with us via our Facebook page, that's France24.51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. Thanks for your feedback so far, and yes, please do keep those comments and suggestions coming in. So until our next show, bye for now.